The House of Glunz, an historic winery and brewery located on the corner of Division and Wells in Old Town Chicago, known for selling rare wines and spirits.
My name is Christopher Donovan. I've been running the House of Glunz for 17 years. It's a retail wine shop that's been in my family since 1888, started by my great-grandfather, Louis Glunz.
The story of the House of Glunz not only begins with its founder, Louis Glunz, but also with Charles H. Wacker. Wacker was a philanthropist and prominent Chicago businessman in the late 1800s. Well known as the chairman of the Committee for the Commercial Club of Chicago, which catered to the improvement of the city's social and industrial interests, was also a well-respected brewer, just as his father, Frederick Wacker, a German-born immigrant, was. Louis Glunz, who had been lucky to work with Charles Wacker at Wacker and Burke Brewing Company for a few years, got his own start at opening a family brewery with Wacker's generous assistance.
Wacker ended up taking him under his wing. He loaned him the money to open the shop and then actually got him the contract to bottle Schlitz for Chicago. So it was pretty much a sure thing that he would be able to pay the loan back and be successful. So then they brought in Schlitz in full barrels and they would bottle it in the basement and deliver it with a horse-drawn truck all over the city to restaurants and bars. We do, every Saturday we do wine tastings from 2 until 6 o'clock, and we do, quarterly we do multiple tastings. We do private events in our tasting room or in the restaurant next door, and then we do every year for now 15 years we've been doing a champagne and caviar event. It's our biggest tasting of the year, and we sell out, fill up the entire restaurant and the shop, and we taste 40 different champagne and sparkling wines, as well as really great domestic caviars and several other foods, some sushi, other things that pair really well with champagne.
This is my first tasting that I've ever been to. I've never been to a champagne tasting before, and it exceeded my expectations.
We always love champagne, and I love rosés, and then he loves mimosas, and it's just wonderful.
It's definitely something that I would tell anyone to do.
Had a fantastic night. The wines are terrific. The people are very informative.
And we'll do about 6 other tastings throughout the year, just depending. We'll move them around. So we'll do a Bordeaux tasting or a Burgundy tasting or Cabernet of the World, something like that, to sort of draw a comparison for people. When they can taste 20 things at the same time, side by side, it's much easier to assess what you like and what you like about something, rather than just tasting a wine 2 weeks ago and remembering you liked it, but you can't quite pinpoint what it was, or comparing it with something else and why you didn't like the other one as much. So tasting is a great opportunity for people to learn more.
At tastings, there is an abundance of different types of wines, champagnes, and spirits to try, and the servers are eager to give a little lesson and information on what is being served, as well as give their particular recommendations. Listen to what a few had to say about the House of Glunz 15th annual champagne tasting.
Easy drinking, sparkling rosé, 6% alcohol, and it's fantastic. Enjoy. La Dentelle, Bougie de Cerveau.
It's made from a grape that only comes from this area called Grollo grape, which is usually used to make sparkling rosé. And this has some nice strawberry fruit, dry, but a little bit of just enough sugar, I would say, to make it great with spicy food.
Andre Clouet, very good. It's zero dosage, 100% Pinot Noir, and it's awesome grower champagne. For the value, very good.
It's 80% Pinot Noir, 20% Chardonnay, 100% Grunt rated vineyards. Would you like to give it a try?
Although the House of Glunz is primarily a high-end liquor store, they also have an adjoining tavern with restaurant bar menu.
So the Tavern was closed in 1920 for the Prohibition, and the shop was kept open. So we sold all the sacramental wine to the Catholic Church. We taught people how to make wine at home, which was legal. You could make a certain amount for personal consumption, and then we would sell them the juice, the yeast, the bottles, the caps, everything to make it. And then we would also sell medicinal alcohol, which was very popular. Back then, there weren't really pharmaceutical companies. Things were herbal. You'd have different herbs and things suspended in alcohol for genuine medicine. And then you also had things like bourbon that were labeled, that were basically sold for medicinal use. And so people would get a prescription for whiskey or rum or whatever it was that the doctor would prescribe, and we would actually sell that to them.
Prohibition became a major issue and what was at the time a downfall for the alcohol industry in the 1920s and early 1930s. However, the industry managed to survive through various different methods at the time.
And then, so the shop never closed, the tavern closed in 1920, and then we just reopened it 3.5 years ago. The House of Glunz is unique because it's been in the same location since 1888, in the same family. We have relationships with with families going back generations on the buying side, as well as producers going back. I've worked with people whose fathers and grandfathers worked with my relatives, and so having a long history with those, and it means a lot to people. When you come in here, the people working here, whether it's me or someone else, it's really a career. It's people they're learning a lot about everything that we're selling. They're able to talk about it and explain why it was chosen, why it's so special. And in most liquor stores or wine shops, you're really dealing with someone who's just working there. The next day they could be waiting tables in a restaurant, or they could be selling stereos at Best Buy. It really doesn't make a difference. But here, people come here because of that experience and the knowledge that they get. My great-grandfather, he was a recent immigrant. He came to the United States, and he was broke, like most immigrants coming over at the end of the 18th century or 17th century. And he was actually robbed on his way to Chicago. And he was traveling with a bunch of other people, and they passed the hat, and everybody just kind of gave him what they could, and he got to Chicago, and as I said, he got a job at Wacker and Burke Brewing, and then just worked really hard, and it paid off. When it's an historic family business like this, it's generational. Each generation, you sort of, by the third generation, you're taking on more of a custodial position, where you're maintaining the integrity of what someone built before you. You want to make sort of, not so much your mark on it, but you want to do something for it to make it better. And I guess it's sort of like putting a mark on it, but not really making it yours. You're maintaining it for the next generation. You will hopefully continue for a fifth generation. I put in the time and the hard work and the passion to something that connects me, all through the generations, all the way to my great-grandfather. Is pretty remarkable. And I couldn't do it if I didn't love it, because it does require a lot.
If you love wine and are open to new experiences, you most definitely should attend a tasting at the House of Glunz.